welcome and all that,
Hello,
everybody.
everybody!
Ang tagal naming nawala.
Oo nga,
Almost 1 month? Tama ba? 1 month?
Yeah, pero
Grabe.
bumabawi tayo ngayon.
Anyway, this is episode 13 and we have a very interesting topic tonight, and that topic is what school is best for my child.
I'm sure maraming mga parents ang nagtatanong niyan.
Actually, marami tayong in-invite na parents today. Ranging from my high school friends up until mga other interested parties all over the Philippines, and meron din tayong mga foreign listeners, but they're all Filipinos. Yun, the reason why we chose this topic in the first place is because our sons, what was that? Orientation. Orientation, remember? Tapos we gleaned a lot of knowledge from our guest tonight.
Yeah.
Regarding what school is best for our kids. Is it progressive? It's traditional. What's the difference between all of these? Between these two? And because of that, we invited her. Buti naman napayas namin siya kasi bigatin nga itong guest namin. So talagang take advantage. If you guys have questions later, we'll open the floor for your questions. And before everything else,
let's introduce her.
Introduce our guest.
So our guest for tonight graduated from UP Diliman with a BS in Business Economics degree back in 1995. She earned her master's degree in Early Childhood Education Specialist from the Lynch Graduate School of Education at Boston College. In 1999, worked as a director at an MIT-affiliated preschool in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Massachusetts, and set up ISYC in 2001. Currently, she serves as the school directress of the school, and recently, she finished her doctorate degree in educational administration from UP Diliman with a dissertation on management model for progressive preschool institutions. She's happily married to Alvin, who is also a school administrator for 12 years, and have two lovely children, Bella and Diego. So,
Good evening.
Hi,
Good evening, teacher Michelle.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me in your show tonight.
Actually, dapat with her credentials, we should be calling her Dr. Aprecio.
Yeah.
Yun. Teacher.
I'm not used to being called a doctor, so Michelle's fine.
Yun, teacher. First, what made you decide to open a school? Sorry, bina-blindside kita sa question.
Why did we decide to open?
Kasi I'm very interested on
It's okay. Why did?
Yeah, from a business economics degree, biglang
tapos
naging preschool
On what?
education. Yes.
Oo nga. Well, actually, when I think about it, the reason why I decided to set up a school was really because I enjoy teaching. I love teaching. I think even when I was as a child, I would play with my neighbors, and the role that I would always play is that of a teacher. So I think it was something that was developed in me early on, but which I later realized only after college. So even after I graduated with a business economics degree, I ended up teaching already after college. I used to teach in a computer learning school for kids that used to be in Shangri-La. It's Future Kids. I don't know if you remember it. And then after that, I had a short stint with a construction firm of our family. But then I realized that teaching was really what I wanted to do. So I taught in a preschool. It's called YLC in New Manila for a semester. Or for, I don't remember if it's for a semester or a year. I think it for a year, and then it was after that I really decided to pursue further studies in education. And putting up a preschool was realized later on when I reconnected with teacher Leah Miguel, who was my thesis mate in college. At that point, when we met up again after a few years after college, um, we were happily surprised that we were both in the preschool industry. So we worked on conceptualizing the school, and that's how the school came about. So that's how ISYC, or the Integrated School for Young Children, was born. It was really born out of our love for children, our passion to teach, and also my from my own perspective, my desire to share what I learned in the United States when I taught there, and my experiences in teaching to the children and the parents here in the Philippines.
So
Yeah.
talagang it was just a calling
The
talaga, no?
calling. It's
It's a calling.
from the heart. Yeah.
Sounds like
Yes, I
teacher is.
think when you're a teacher, it's really something that is from the heart.
Kasi it's not about the pay, clearly.
It has to be something
Sadly.
you really love and passionate about.
So yun, teacher, just to,
Yeah.
first and foremost, when we hear traditional schools and progressive schools, a lot of people have different ideas what traditional is and what progressive
Yeah.
is. So, may we hear from an actual expert, what is a traditional school and what is a progressive school?
Actually, in reality, there are three streams of educational ideology. So I'll be a little bit technical here, but the first one is called the I'm sorry, is called the romanticism. So basically, this is where Montessori stemmed from. It um, it believes that it believes in the unfolding of the inner abilities and social virtues of the child. So it actually works with the child, uh, child, child's development. It takes into account the child's so children work at their own pace. Children mentor other children in this way, and they have a hands-on materials that are self-correcting. In the Montessori child, although rates high in independence, they appear to rate lower in creativity because some of the materials that they use are self-correcting, or meaning to say there's one way
One
of
answer.
doing it. Now, yes, the second one is called cultural transmission, which is more commonly known as the traditional schools. As you know, traditional schools are more focused on readiness skills, or skills that are required for the primary grades. So this includes behaving properly for later school life. And here, the teacher is the center of educational diffusion. So typical classroom has rows of desks facing the blackboard and the teacher's table, and the few materials that are available to the children should only be what reinforce the lessons. So there are no materials that encourage creative development, because this is not the goal of a traditional school. Now, I'm talking about the usual, or the traditional description of the educational ideologies when I speak about the different educational ideologies. Now, here in a traditional school, tests are the measures of evaluation. So the job of the educator is to direct instruction of information and rules, and the child's behavior can be shaped by repetition and elaboration of correct reply. Also, this type of formal instruction during the early childhood years, one of the disadvantages of a traditional school may put children at risk for short-term stress and personality damage. That was according to Elkind in 1987. Now, the third educational stream is called the progressive stream, which highlights the child's educational experience that encourages thought, creativity, and learning. So, according to Dewey, education must start with the psychological foresight into the child's capabilities, interests, and habits, which makes sense because we have to keep the children engaged in their learning for them to learn more. So, progressivists view education as a process of living and not a preparation for future living. So, because of this, teacher is the facilitator of learning, and they use individual assessments, wherein the focus is on the child's own progress and individuality. Also, it is child-centered, and so basically, those are the differences in the educational streams. Now, here in the Philippines, it's we categorize school as either a traditional or a progressive school. And when we differentiate the learning experience from a traditional and progressive school, most traditional schools, the, the students here learn disciplines separately, whereas in a progressive school, disciplines are integrated in a connected whole. Also, a traditional schools usually expect students to learn as soon as the information is given to them, whereas learning in a progressive school is experienced through the guidance of the teachers and their environment. As I mentioned earlier, the teacher is the central figure in a traditional setting. In terms of the teacher's responsibility, in a traditional school, the teachers are seen as authoritative figures in the classroom and the main source of information. Oftentimes, the teaching style involves rigidity and directness as they gauge learning on whether or not a student can pass exam or fulfill a particular academic standard. So this means that the learning process of traditional schools deals more with pass or fail and rote learning. Whereas in a progressive school naman, the teachers are seen as facilitators. So instead of figures of authority, they serve as guides to students as they learn and think inside and outside the classrooms. Teachers are not always the experts because knowledge is everywhere. And because of this, students are free to acquire and process information from any number of sources, which include and which are not limited to their experiences, social interaction, and play. Now, the students' experience naman, the difference between a traditional and progressive experience is that in a traditional setting, students are not seen as active participants in the learning process. So learning is more passive, whereas in a progressive school, it has less structure. The subjects are integrated, allowing students to draw connections among them. So teachers are mediums through which information is disseminated, and the students are graded based on their perceived understanding and subject matter in a traditional school. So basically, the differences are very distinct. In a traditional school, it's teacher-centered experiences. There's a very high student-teacher ratio. I think in the average, it's about 35 and above students to one teacher. The methodologies are pictorial and abstract, and the emphasis is on a wide fact-based and skills learned in isolation. Product is emphasized more, and the predominance of summative assessment is highlighted, and discipline is external in nature. Whereas in a non-traditional setting or in a progressive setting, the experience of for and by the experience is of for and by the child. There's a lower student-teacher ratio. For the higher levels, at most, I think they will have about 18 or 20 with two teachers or one teacher with another teacher aide. The the methodologies progress from concrete, pictorial, then abstract, and then the emphasis is on developing the big ideas and applying these big ideas to everyday skills. Process and product are emphasized. They use a combination of summative and formative assessments, and oftentimes they use positive disciplines. Now, you may think that I'm leaning more towards a progressive approach to learning, but it's very important to understand that traditional schools do not do not necessarily mean bad, or non-traditional schools do not necessarily mean good. So, because there are advantages and disadvantages to a
Yes.
traditional and non-traditional schools. I said a lot ba?
Well, actually, very enlightening.
So there.
Maraming
I go
question
ahead
also.
and give the ano.
Well, most of us are
Yeah.
familiar with traditional
Traditional
schools,
schools,
di ba?
kasi most of us are product of
Oo.
traditional
And
schools.
then some would say na,
Right.
we turned out okay naman, di ba? But then, yun nga,
Relatively.
relatively okay. But
Correct.
then, yun nga, there's this, yeah, progressive schools. And I understand, teacher, there's more than one kind of progressive school, di ba? There are different parang approaches or kinds of progressive schools.
Yeah, that's true. There are different approaches to progressive schools, but I think the main thrust that they have is that they are all child centered.
Mm-hmm.
So to develop the learning strategies, the teaching skills, teaching strategies to aid the child's development as a whole. Meaning to say, not only the child's cognitive or his knowledge of letters and numbers, but more importantly, his or her social, emotional, physical,
Mm-mm.
cognitive, emotional, spiritual skills in some approaches. So developing the child as a whole is their main thrust.
Mm-mm. Kaya
But
mostly
it's true.
thematic,
I
no?
actually also Yes, I actually also went to a traditional exclusive girls' school. So um, that's a really bad combination, but I turned out well naman. So it's really just it's I think it's just that there is a different way of teaching nowadays that can open up many possibilities
Yeah.
for children who are, yeah, children who are differently abled, or children who are challenged differently, who are more advanced or less developed. So these are different venues for them to explore their intelligences.
Kasi nga very child-centered yung progressive. A lot of times medyo individualize yung son. Yeah. Parang mas tutok din si teacher in a way.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
Oo. Also because in a progressive school, the class size is limited. Like for example, in our school, integrated school for young children, for children who are below for our toddler, junior, and senior nursery levels, we only accept a maximum of 10 children, and there are two teachers who handle
Mm-mm.
them. So basically, there's one teacher level. It's
One is
we
to five.
only our maximum class size is 12, so it's one teacher for every 6 children.
Yeah.
So the teachers really know the strengths and weaknesses of each child, and make sure that the activities that are given to them are tailored to their needs, to help them progress their skills, and also um, to help them with the skills that they need to catch up with. So the class size is a very important, I think, aspect
Mm-hmm.
of helping the child um, progress in every aspect of his or her development.
Mm-mm.
Yung meron talagang disadvantages, class is too big for the handle. which goes without saying. Pero ano, is there a silver lining? And I'm grasping at straws here. If the class is big,
I'm sorry, I didn't get
What do
that.
you mean?
ayun, ano, if the school, if the class size is small, it's easier for the teacher to handle.
Mm.
So ako, I'm grasping at straws and looking for silver lining. If there is something positive about having a big class size.
Is there something positive about having a big
Big
class
class
size? Wow.
Having a big class. Yes, why not? Well, yes, a big class size can also be an advantage um, if the students are, I guess, all at the same level in terms of their development, because in that way they'll be easier to handle from a teacher's perspective. They'll be easier to handle. Now, on a child's perspective, it's an advantage because they will get to interact with more children. Their experiences will be enriched more because their interactions will be from varied children. And also, what else? I'm trying to think of what a big group advantage can be. Learning can be more collaborative if it's bigger in size. I think the most important advantage of having a big class size is that your life will be more enriched by your interaction with children in your class. Given that in a bigger class size, you will get to meet children or people from with different characteristics and learn how to manage yourself or how to regulate yourself when you interact with children from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different attitudes, different approaches toward learning. So there, I think
Oh,
that's
galing.
that's how
See,
I
there's
feel
something
about
positive about it.
Pero I can get that feeling na konting ulak na natin.
Oo nga. But I think lalo na rin kay teacher, it's really a challenge to handle a big class.
Oh, syempre, I
Oo.
will just believe you. I can barely handle a
yes. Also,
child.
Sarah is also a teacher. I'm sure she knows how difficult it is to handle a big class size, especially if you're really um if you're really serious about being a teacher and you really want to make sure that each and every student in your class will progress. It's easy to be a teacher and just let everyone pass just for the sake of making them pass. But if you really want to help the child and make it individualized for each and every one of them, then it's a lot of work for the teacher.
It is. Teacher, I'm curious. Why are
Mhm.
there not, parang there's not a lot of progressive, parang grade schools yet in the Philippines? Or maybe I'm not aware of them pa. Kasi mostly when you say progressive, we think about preschools. Pero grade schools, very limited pa. Why do you think is that the case?
I think it has a lot to do with the method regulations, because if you're a progressive school, um, you have to be constantly changing it to meet the because every year you get different sets of students
Mm-hmm.
who are different in their likes or dislikes. And if you are progressive in the truest sense, then you would try to address their needs and tailor it to their likes and dislikes. So by the requirements of DepEd in terms of fulfilling the the curriculum that they require, Um, they have they have a limit. They have a specific curriculum that you need to comply with,
Mm-hmm.
and if you want to, it's something that you cannot you cannot not comply with, but you can go over. I mean, you can add on to it,
Add
but
on.
not make it lesser. So parang, oo, parang in that way, siguro it's more work. Um, and progressive, kasi when you're in a progressive setting, it's you don't want to be limited
Yeah.
by the
Policies.
by want to you want to develop the child's creativity, and also when you're a teacher in a progressive setting, your creativity is also stifled when there are a lot of regulations in
Mm.
place.
So preschools have more parang room to innovate, to be more creative in terms of how they teach their students.
Yes, that's correct.
Ah.
Um, I think there's more liberty um, in terms of uh, in terms of the way you teach the children. You can integrate a lot of play in your curriculum to make it more interesting for the children. Um, it's a lot more easier also to change your curriculum based on the needs, based on the likes, based
Mm-mm.
on the interests of the child. Oo.
Mm.
So there.
Yun.
So teacher, going back to traditional schools, we understand that there are certain kinds of students who would fit best in traditional schools. Yung mga progressive schools kasi, since it's very child-centered, parang even kids with special needs nga, children with learning challenges, okay sa kanilang progressive schools. Pero ano yung mga kind of students that would best fit in traditional schools?
Okay, so you're right. When you're in a non-traditional school, it's actually for everyone. It's ideal for children with shorter attention spans, or teacher or students with special needs, and also those with introverted personalities. But in a traditional school, um, those children who are who require minimal supervision, children who can work independently, who can listen well and sit through longer periods of time, children who are self-disciplined and with good study habits, who are confident and self-assured even in big groups, are the kind of children who will fit in a traditional school. So when I say attention span or shorter attention span, um, the interactive setting can provide a more stimulating and learning experience when you are in a non-traditional school.
Mm-mm.
When you say introverted personalities, they will feel more secure and build better self-esteem within smaller groups. So the difference really is in the class size. So as you know, in a traditional school, it's usually one teacher for a class of 38 to 40 children. So the expectation is that children will be able to follow instructions, should be able to work with minimal supervision, work independently, um, certain way, recite. They need to be disciplined to follow the classroom rules, recite when asked to recite, um, and also learn to also be more with setting.
Mhm.
So there.
Oo. Parang well, I can't say ideal yung ganung bata. Parang, ano bang masasabi mo dun sa, parang,
Dream student.
pero kasi there's a thing called being too
Oo
good
nga.
or being too nice na very passive naman, very, pero yeah, siguro it takes a certain level of, ano ba, maturity
Oo.
to self-regulate, to control. So, yeah, baka not all kids.
Not all kids talaga. Which I think that's becoming a trend these days. People are seeing more and more. Not all kids are for traditional schools. Pero sadly kasi, I think the pull for traditional school is the name. Kasi name a
Yes.
school, a non-traditional school, a progressive school that has a huge name that everybody recognizes.
Mm-mm.
But you can hardly name five or even three, except for
That's
a
true.
present company except.
That's true.
So, teacher, another question.
Oo.
Can you give us examples of progressive schools? Uh, aside from ISYC,
Samples of progress.
Progressive schools around
around Metro Manila.
in Metro Manila.
Uh,
Um, there are actually a lot, but you have to be very careful because you have to make sure that they are really
Yeah.
progressive.
that the philosophy that they say that they if they are progressive is something that they really practice. So it's very important to visit the school and kind of check, parang ganyan, check
Mm-mm.
if they fit a progressive philosophy when it comes to teaching or handling children. Um, there's a progressive Catholic school called Everest that's in BGC.
Parang wait
There's
lang
also
from my very very traditional school background, when you say progressive Catholic school, it sounds oxymoronic eh.
Depende yata sa implementation.
Parang, such a
oo,
thing exists?
I think it's possible
ganun, ano.
naman, pero depende
Tapos
sa
meron
pag-implement. Yes, teacher, go ahead.
Oo. There's also explorations for their preschool and then keys for their grade school and high school. There's Nest School, Learning Tree, Learning Tree, yes. There are a lot actually, but the ones that I mentioned are the ones who have well established um, their presence in the progressive preschool industry, I would say.
So teacher, let's say I'm a parent and my child is ready. I think my child is ready for school na. He's about that age or she's about that age. What steps should I take in choosing the school for my kid?
Okay, so it's very important. So your question is, what should they, what should they take in consideration in their decision making process, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
When choosing a school,
Yes.
correct? Well, first of all, you have to acknowledge that each child differs in their learning styles. So also, and because of that, you have to find the right fit for your child. Also, list down your considerations in choosing a school, the teaching method, traditional or non-traditional, the cost of education. Are you willing to pay an arm and a leg for a good education, or are you okay with a lower tuition school and then supplement at home? Also, if the religion, if you want a sectarian school or non-sectarian school, you also need to consider the school's philosophy. Nowadays, I think it's very practical to consider the proximity and convenience of the school,
That's
especially
true.
with traffic
Mm-hmm.
being a major problem. So you wouldn't want to add the stress of being caught in traffic going to and from school, aside from this, to add on to the stress that they will get when they are already in school. So um, it's always good to visit the school with your child, try to find out so that you can see if the child So you can ask the child, I mean to say, so you can involve your child in your decision-making process. I
Oh,
mean,
that's
for
nice.
if you want your child to thrive in the school of your choice, you have to involve your child in the decision-making process. Because after all, it's the child who will go to school and not
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
Oo. Mm-mm.
Parang do you want to go there?
So
Parang
there.
involve
Involve the
in
child
the
in the decision making.
it entails a lot of research din,
Yes.
diba?
And teacher, there's a current growth.
Correct. But more importantly, as parents,
Go ahead, teacher.
oo. More importantly, as parents, we have to know our child. I'm sorry.
Yes.
As parents, we really have to know our child well enough to see and assess their strengths and weaknesses and identify which is the most appropriate learning environment for your child. So, kumbaga, um, you have to take yourself outside of the equation and see what will best fit your child.
Try to be
Because
objective.
there's still a lot of parents who are living their lives to their child. Alam mo yon? Or maybe
Yes.
this is the dream school that I want, so I want my child to go to this school. Only to realize that your child is not not fit for a school like that. Alam mo yon? So it's really communicating with their child and making sure that it's the best one, that the child's interest should be put put uh, put should be prioritized.
Mhm. Know your child first.
Kasi nangyayari din talaga yun.
Mm.
Oh, this is my alma mater, so let's keep up the tradition. Enroll my child here.
Yeah,
Pero hindi
oo.
naman pala alam na the child is much more
Iba yung
comfortable.
gift nung child.
Exactly.
Iba yung interest
Yeah.
niya, yung personality niya.
Yun, teacher, there's a very new, or I don't know how new
Relatively
it is,
new, I don't
relatively
know.
new trend that's been going on for past couple of years. Parami na nakikilala ko who actually homeschool their kids. What can you say about
Home.
homeschooling?
Um, I know a lot of parents who choose to homeschool their children, and it's for varied reasons. Some feel that they don't want to stress their children with with uh, with with a lot of schoolwork, that they want their children to experience also learning through experience, or learning by actually involving them in their learning. Others naman choose to do so because of religion, or because of they want to protect their child from the I don't know, from the realities of the world, I guess, for some.
Yeah.
And we should respect them for that.
Mhm.
They know what's best for their child. So I'm not really familiar with homeschooling in the sense that I know they have they need to have and they need to go through. It's like a school pa rin eh. Parang they apply to a school, and then they follow a certain curriculum that they need to implement. And then there are some homeschools that meet once or twice a week with other homeschooled children as part of their interaction, as part of their MAPE or their PE. And then I think they're also assessed in some ways. As I've said, they're they do it for various reasons. Um,
Napuputol.
well, for one, my
We're
child,
having technical
my
difficulties.
my what do you call this? The first, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, teacher.
Hello,
Ayan, okay.
ayan, ayan, can you hear me na?
Yeah.
Okay na, better.
Yep, better.
Oo, the okay. For me, ha,
Okay.
the primary purpose of me choosing to homeschool my child
Naputol. Ayan, sorry everybody, medyo
is
kayo
to give
may
my
technical difficulties tayo.
a better hello.
Hello,
A better...
Uh,
okay, we'll adjust the connection muna.
a
Please stand
better
by everybody. We're having technical difficulties. Hindi
Sorry.
nagko-cooperate ang aming internet connection.
Oh, it's a technical difficulty.
Oo.
People have different reasons for homeschooling their kids. And yun nga, like what teacher said. you were
Ayan,
saying-
hello teacher.
Sorry, teacher.
hi, sorry.
Ayan, naputol.
Ayan. So you were saying the reason you'd enroll your child to homeschooling would be...
For me, if
Mhm.
I decide to homeschool my children, it's
Mhm.
because I want to give them enough time to study the things that are more important,
Mm-hmm.
and then give them time for play. Because,
Oh.
like, for example, my daughter now, she's in grade 7. This is her first year in high school, technically high
Yeah.
school, or middle school. I don't know, high school. So it was quite a big change from grade school in the sense that she has more projects to do. She has a lot of reports complete, and all given within a limited time frame. And because of that, she sleeps late. I can see the stress or the difficulty, stress, the challenge that she's having now that she's in high school. But also, I understand that she needs to be challenged because in real life, she will have to deal with these things. So, yun. If I decide to homeschool my child, it will only be because I want to give her the education that is more relevant to her. I mean, relevant to what she will be using for life, for herself, for her life skills, and to away with those that are not naman needed, something like that. And because of that, I will be able to streamline the curriculum and give her more time to experience the world, connect her learning with the outside world, and then have a deeper understanding of what she's learning, connecting it to the environment, to the community, something like that.
So flexibility in terms of time and which topics to put more time that would be
Yes.
relevant for her. Tsaka importante nga rin yung play and rest for kids.
Especially
Oo,
play and
exactly.
rest.
Pero yun nga, everyone has their reasons for choosing what kind of school or approach they'll choose for their child.
Yes. Oo.
Pero ikaw, teacher, if you would, if somebody forced it on you, which one would you recommend
Forced it on you.
for your kids? For your kids.
Any kid? As I said, traditional schools do not necessarily mean bad, and non-traditional schools do not necessarily mean good. So for me, if I were to choose for my children, it will be a synergy of the best practices of the progressive and traditional approach. Alam mo yan? Kasi the traditional approach, they have advantages. The progressive approach also has advantages. So the synergy of these two, of the best practices of these approaches, would be the best education that still may benefit my children most. And what does that mean? The the curriculum should have set routine structures and objectives in place, but still teach children life skills, study habits, and problem solving, so that they know how to think critically, decide soundly, and apply knowledge in practical and real life situations. The teacher should still nurture the students by giving personalized attention and guidance. So they should teach literacy and numeracy without focusing on rote learning, but by removing the boundaries between these subjects and creating connections within them. And synergizing progressive and structured approaches, the school should always nurture each student to become successful and yet compassionate and kind in any role, relationship, or situation in life. Thereby parang exemplifying excellence in their heart, in mind, and in their spirit. So it's really more of a holistic integration of everything to make the child become to make the child competent in her global skills of being a team player, of being collaborative in everything that she or he does.
We have a comment from one of our listeners. Kasi apparently traditional, when you say traditional school, it's also it's also cultural. Kasi our traditional school is appropriated from the American educational system. In Japan, his kids age 10, 6, and 4. His kids are in a traditional Japanese school. Their focus nila daw is ethics, physical activities, and self-service. And when they say self-service, it's more independence. And it's
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last one.
Self-service, and when you say self-service, it's more about independence.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing
it's a
in
cultural
Japan.
thing talaga. So when you say traditional, it also involves a little bit of the culture of where the school is. Is that right, Teacher Michelle?
Traditional schools are under the educational stream of cultural transmission. So it is socially centered and product oriented. So it defines the product as the internalization of the values and knowledge of the culture. That's why traditional schools are focused on readiness skills or skills that are required for the primary grades. Kasi it internalizes the culture and transmit it to it just makes sure that the culture is transmitted into a continuum. Parang i-pass it on to the next generation. Parang ganyan.
That makes sense. That's why the Americans, they got the trust of the Filipino people, and di ba, up to now parang marami pa ring pro-America. It's because through the educational system.
Na-indoctrinate sila.
Yeah.
Pero if one of our listeners' description of a traditional school is exactly that, I'd rather go with the traditional school, but in Japan.
In Japan.
Kasi, di ba, the reason why we prepare kids in school is when they get out of it, they're independent, they're self-reliant, they know how to navigate the world, they're skilled enough to join the workforce. And I guess that's exactly what they're aiming for in Japan, even traditionally.
Yes, oo. There's a growing trend now that we should not just provide our children with skills that would help them. Cognitive skills, emotional, social. the skills that we now have to develop are called global skills.
Mm-hmm.
So these are skills that would help the children be more collaborative with others, meaning to say being more respectful of others' differences.
Mm-hmm.
What else about our global skills? Being digitally, what we call this, intelligent, I guess. I forgot the term, but, being able to, uh, being able to use
Technology.
media technology in even in the younger classrooms, being able to use technology in presenting their ideas, or also in researching for different ideas. So it's different. The skill set needed in the generation we have now is different from what we used to
Yeah.
to need, to have. It's very different now. So we need to prepare the children for global skills.
Mm-hmm.
Another question from one of our listeners. Question in the Philippines, especially in public schools, how comfortable are you with their level of adaptation of new technologies? Is there anything happening, or are we behind? Or if you have any insight regarding that?
In public schools,
Yes, public schools.
in terms of the use of technology in the classroom, I think all depth ed schools follow a certain curriculum, and computer is part of their subject. So I'm not quite familiar with the exposure of children in public schools in terms of their use of technology, but I do know for a fact that they offer it as one of their subjects in the classroom. So in terms of the availability of technology, and if the children are able to use it, given that the class size in the public school is very big, that might be a little bit questionable. But in one sense, I think this generation is more digitally connected than any one of us, because everyone has a cell phone, and this is across social classes. Everyone has a cell phone, and I think because of this, they are more adept to improving their digital skills. They use the internet to search for information, to download music, for varied purposes. So even if it's not taught in the classroom, but it is something that is evident at home, then I think everyone, especially in this generation, younger generation, is already digital, has already been digitalized.
Yon, we have another question from our listener. Is it important to teach our kids some 21st century skills now, like collaborate with other people online? And
Online.
Sorry, asking because I recently got my MIE certificate.
What's an MIE certificate?
MIE certificate is Microsoft Innovative Educator.
Microsoft Innovative Educator. So is it like using technology in the classroom?
Yun, that's a good question.
Not necessarily. The 21st century skills are collaboration and teamwork, creativity and imagination, critical thinking and problem solving. So, but it doesn't necessarily mean um, tying it with technology per se, but it's more of being able to work collaboratively, meaning to see in different settings, such as one-on-one, in small groups of two or three, or in a big group. Being able to be part, to play as a leader and a follower in a team, being able to think creatively or thinking outside the box, that there's no one way of doing things, being able to solve problems efficiently. Like I'm so surprised now with my daughter's math skills, because one time, actually my son, one time I was teaching him how to convert, how to add fractions with the similar denominators. So I was teaching him as the way I was taught when I was in, I think, grade school. So I told him to write the factors. For example, 1/2 plus 1/3. I told him to write the factors. Factors of 2 is 2 times 1. And the factors of 3 is, I told him to line up the 1 times 3. It was so mechanical. And then I ended up teaching him a lot of steps that he got confused, because apparently in school it was taught differently. He just had to write the factors and then encircle the factors wherein they are the same. And then when I thought about it, oh man, it would have been that is easier with the one that I was proposing. So I think nowadays it's really understanding the concept behind a specific not the concept, the idea behind a specific concept. You cannot just be content with, oh, this is how you solve it. You have to understand how you arrive at putting one and one together to give this answer. And that those are the skills that are needed for the future.
Yeah. Talagang it's really the process and really problem solving. Kasi in the future, parang knowledge is just easy to get these days. It's what you do with the knowledge that you get and how you process that information.
There's a talk on TED Talks.
Oo, kasi nga very fast ang changes. Diba? There are jobs that didn't exist before.
Na ngayon, sought after na.
Oo, and are we really preparing our students for the future? Diba?
Especially even scientific studies these days. What you knew now could change like 2 minutes later when somebody publishes something on the web. Our schools cannot simply keep up with that kind of innovation, that kind of information exchange. Kasi, mabilis eh. Alam ka naman, isusulat mo na naman sa biology book mo yun, nakaka-change lang, diba?
Di ba yung periodic table? Ang dami ng bagong...
Another example is...
Ang dami ng bagong element.
Ion actually studies the periodic table. Tapos, just a few months ago, or actually that was last year, that they added new elements and their names. And people don't even know about it. Tapos yung mga song na ginagamit nila to memorize the periodic table no longer applies. Kasi, because there are 6 new elements. So,
very exciting, 21st century skills.
Exactly. Yun, nag-comment din yung isang listener natin. He says, Moore's Law, technology doubles approximately every 2 years. And siguro, in effect, so does the information that we process. So I think, and this is my layman, non-expert opinion, we should teach our kids not to be memory banks but processors. Kumbaga, so
correct. Which is the thrust of progressive school, is that they focus more on the process of learning more than the product.
Yeah.
So we want the children to understand why they're learning a certain concept, and for them to understand it is we make it relevant for them by giving them a lot of hands-on experiences. Also integrating a lot of play for them to understand the concept, because really at this age, in the preschool, for the preschoolers, their main occupation is play. So we want them to understand that while they are playing, they are also learning in the process.
Oh, play is really very important in
So,
children.
yun, teacher, baka naman we're taking too much of your
Last
time na.
question.
So we have a last question, and I want to change it up a bit regarding this last question. No, kasi I want it to be a bit more exciting.
Okay.
So if you were in charge of the Philippine education system, what are the
Wow.
things that you want to
This is my next question.
Miss Universe
Miss
question.
Universe question. At bawal ang answer world peace.
Oo nga.
Yun, if you were in charge of the Philippine education system, what are the changes that you want to see? And what would you retain in for that matter?
What are the things that I want to see? Actually, I want to bring back the old system wherein there is good moral and right conduct, because with the generation that I'm seeing now, this is the generation of entitled generation. They feel that everything should be laid out for them, and everything should be easy for them because everything is at the click of the click ba or swipe na of the of the iPad. I mean, information is very what do you call that?
Instantaneous?
It's readily available to them. I want to go back to the olden times wherein you have to search the dictionary to find for the meaning, not search on find it out on Google.
More effort.
More effort, because kasi if you see the generation now, they are more impatient. They change jobs easily because they are not content with they're not content in the job that they're in, not realizing that you have to work your way up. I mean, you have to persevere. You have to persevere in order to move higher. Parang ganun. Parang for me na
Yeah.
Grit.
bringing back also religion or values education. Values education, yes, more than anything, values education. And also citizenship, love for our country, because
Yun, tama.
I think, and this is what we're trying to bring to the younger ones, because parang it will be easier to teach the younger ones to develop their love for their country, and this means loving their environment, loving their culture, because as they grow up, they're the ones who will make sure that this will succeed, whereas the older ones are harder to teach because they have to unlearn the certain ideas that they have of their love or lack of love for their country. So yes, for me, values education, citizenship, and lastly, love for the environment. Not only in the Philippines, but I guess the Philippines because it affects the world as a whole. But there, and sustainability. Yung parang ito about sustainability, you have to teach them that so that we'll be able to ensure that the future Filipinos will still have enough for everyone to live.
Teacher, may pahabol tayo na question all the way from Hiroshima.
Wow, Japan.
Doc Michelle, is there a good age when we should start teaching kids how to multitask?
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
A good age.
Is there a good age when we should start teaching our kids to multitask?
To multitask?
Yes.
I think it starts as early as your child can understand you. I mean, you have to start with little things. You have to start first with little tasks. So try with. I mean, when you teach someone in general, when you teach a child something, it has to be appropriate. So at a given age, your child can only understand a few words. So make sure that when you're giving your child instructions, it is something that they understand. So multitasking can also be taught through modeling. I think multitasking more than anything is being organized. So if your child can see that you are organized in your things, if you are organized in your household, you are organized in your work environment, and be able to at the same time manage your other activities appropriately, then your child will learn from you. So there's no really a certain age that you teach multitasking. It's what they see you do. It's the little things that you don't teach, but you show them. As they said, experience is the best, teacher, diba?
Ayun. Teacher,
I hope I answered the question. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight sa aming Balik na Podcast.
You're most welcome.
I hope all our listeners are more enlightened now of what traditional school means, what progressive school means, how to select, and especially how to pay attention to the needs of their kids when in terms of education. Not just, because daddy graduated there, we have to, diba?
Tama.
Ayun, teacher.
Always remember that life is a marathon and not a race. So, take it slowly. Life is too short to enjoy your time with your child. And make sure that the special time that you have with your child will count.
And on that final note, ang ganda ng episode natin. Ayun.
They can listen to this again.
Teacher, if a lot of people missed it from your side or your friends, this is actually being recorded and it will be uploaded to YouTube a little bit later tonight. And they can replay it to their heart's content and share it with their friends. Especially since everybody here listening, may mga friends kayo who are new parents, who are parents of younger kids, and who are discerning right now which schools they want to send their kids to. So, ayun. Teacher,
yes, if they have any questions, they can always email me. My email address is Mchelle, it's MCHELLE74@gmail.com, and I will try to respond as soon as I can.
Yan.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, teacher. Yeah. Also, look it up if you're near Quezon City area and you are near the Marikina area. Look it up. ISYC, Integrated School for Young Children.
Yes, you're more than welcome to visit our school. You can look for us we have a website, it's isyc.com.ph, and you can also follow us on Facebook, Integrated School for Young Children, and Twitter, isyc.com.ph. I'm sorry, it's ISYC 2001 pala.
Ayun, thank you, Teacher Michelle.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me. I hope I was able to answer your questions properly.
Siyempre.
More than, teacher, more than. Maraming
Thank you very much for
salamat.
having me.
Thank you, teacher. So, good night.
Yes.
Alright, that was our episode
Good night.
13, which was best for my child. Yon, for everybody, we didn't catch the earlier part of the show. Just go ahead and wait for this broadcast to be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. You can play it to our website, share it with people. Please do like and share our page so you can follow, also subscribe so you can follow more of our episodes. Here is Love and All That, where we discuss parenting, where we discuss love, relationships, and
Others.
everything under the sun about love and family. Thank you and have a good night. This
Good
is
night. And
Good
shalom.
night.
Signing off.